Hey guys, Trevy the Great here again with another Warmachine battle report. I'm going back to my Cygnarly roots in this game. When I first started Cygnarly, which was almost exactly a year ago, I think give or take a month or two, I started with pCaine, mainly because I won an eBay auction, and it came with pCaine and a unit of long gunners and 2 cyclones, which was weird. I don't know why it had 2 cyclones in it. I don't know who runs 2 cyclones with pCaine, but this list is a little more evolved version of that list. We were playing 35 points. We were playing the guide-on scenario, which has an objective on each side of the board, which can activate if we control it, and be placed in base contact with our Warcaster. Now, we can score a point if we get the guide-on into a zone we control, and there's 2 zones, one on each side of the board, or if we control both of the zones or control the enemy objective, we score 2 points. So that'll actually come into play quite a bit this game, so keep that in mind. This is also a fun chance for me to actually learn the guide-on scenario, because the last time I played it, I have no idea what I was doing and screwed up pretty royally. So, to start off, my list is a little bit of an evolution of my first list that I started with Cygnarly with. This is my version of Keith Christensen's list from Muse on Minis. If you guys don't know the Muse on Minis website, they have an awesome website, and they put out some pretty cool articles and a really awesome podcast. So check those guys out if you haven't. Now, Keith Christensen is a Crix player, but he's been trying his hand at Cygnarly. He plays both of the Caines in his tournament lists, and his pCaine list is a list basically just revolving around totally killing the enemy. So I've sort of put my swing on that, dropped it down to 35 points, and what it has in it right now is a max unit of long gunners, unit of gun mages with their unit attachment. Caine has a Centurion in his battle group and has Silas Wishnell attached to him. I have Reinhold as a support solo. I have Ayana and Holt for the strength buff. I have Gorman D. Wolf for either the arm debuff on Warjacks or just to blind something that gets too close to me. And then I had 2 points left over, so I threw Alton Ashley, the Monster Hunter, in there because I had the model. I really wanted to use him. He was going to go in my Kara Sloan list because I had 2 points left over in that list too, but I wanted to try him out, and I was playing a Hordes player, so I was like, hey, why not? He's also a Rat 8, range 14, POW 12 gun, so he's good at just plinking off infantry pretty much all game. He's got Advanced Deploy and Hunter and Camouflage, or not Hunter, sorry, Pathfinder, so he can sort of sit in terrain and basically just shoot people all game and not be easy to kill. So that's my list. My opponent this game was taking eMakeda, the Skorne caster. He had, I think, a pretty standard eMakeda list. He had a max unit of Praetorian Swordsman to take advantage of her elite cadre. He had a Titan Gladiator for the Rush Animus, obviously. An Archidon, Moloch Karn, the big man himself, and a unit of Pain Givers. I don't think he had the points for the Tyrant Commander in Standard, although they're a lot of times a staple in Makeda's list. And before I forget, he also had Saxon Auric in his list, which is kind of important. So try to keep that in mind. My opponent was very new to playing eMakeda as a caster, and as such, a lot of his models weren't very painted, and he probably wasn't as skilled as a more veteran player would be, but I think this was a pretty close game, and he played very well, so I decided to report it. So, one awesome battle report coming right up. Alright, so this is the bottom of round 1. I hope you guys saw my deployment in the previous photo. Obviously, it was pretty standard. I had a hill, so the long gunners went on there. The gun mages and the Centurion went to contest my zone and just try to shoot everybody out of it. I won the roll to go first, but I let my opponent go first just so I could see where he could deploy. The beauty of my list is that almost everything in my list can deal with almost everything in his list, especially with models like Gorman and Ayana and Holt, just to give those little strength debuffs where needed. The long gunners can aim and shoot 20 POW 10s at whatever they want, and the gun mages can push big things away from them, but I felt that I really needed to take down Moloch Karn. That was the #1 goal of the game, so the long gunners went on the hill across from Moloch Karn just to try to do as much damage as possible. So my opponent ended up deploying first. He ran forward with everything. Not a lot to say there, basically just charging forward, screaming, and waving their swords. I had a couple things to think about in my turn. I knew Moloch Karn had run up way in front of Makeda, and I needed to get him out of there. So Caine moved up. He was with his 15-inch range on Thunderstrike, which is normally an 8-inch range spell, but he gets +5 range from Range Amplifier and +2 range from Silas. So Silas gave him his little mini Signs Importance deal. Caine walked up and blew away Molokarn, knocked him 4 inches back into the Titan Gladiator, did a bunch of damage to Molokarn, a couple points of damage to the Gladiator, and knocked them both down. So that was awesome. Anything I can do to keep Moloch away till I can get into position to just kill him is great. He has a stupid threat range on eMakeda, and even though Caine's high defense, if 1 or 2 of those hits gets through, I think Caine's done for. Other than that, I think Caine took a shot at a Praetorian Swordsman. I thought I was going to be in range with some of my gun mages, so I took the shot even though they have Vengeance. The gun mages moved up and tried to take some Praetorian Swordsmen out, but they were about half an inch out, and they weren't going to be able to do anything. Other than that, pretty much everybody ran. Ion and Holt ran up, the Long Gunners ran up, half of them took a vantage point on the hill, the rest of them were below it, so they could get some shooting off early. Alton Ashley went into the woods there to try to poke Molokarn a little bit. I think he did a couple points of damage with a shot. I don't remember off the top of my head. And then Gorman ran up behind the forest to sort of threaten anything that came near. So, that was my turn 1. Here's the table after round 2. So scoring could begin after the end of my round 2. That didn't really come into play at this point. So, more of the same happened to my opponent's turn. Molokarn and the Gladiator forced to stand up, and then basically everything ran forward, running and screaming. eMakeda took control of her Guidon, but instead of moving it into the zone, she moved it in front of herself as a shield against all the crazy shooting that I had. Because obviously it's a large base and I can't see over it. So it was a pretty good bodyguard, basically, for eMakeda, and she could just hide behind it all game and still be up front where she needs to be. The Praetorian Swordsmen moved up and attacked the Gun Mages. I think they killed 1 or 2 with some lucky rolls. The Gun Mages are a pretty good tar pit because they are high defense, so they weren't too worried about it. Between Vengeance and then their normal attacks, they do get a lot of swings at the Gun Mages, though, so they could do a lot of damage potentially. Otherwise, my opponent towed my zone with his Archidon, basically putting some scenario pressure on me, meaning that if I didn't move into it this turn, he would score 2 points on his turn because he did have Saxon Auric in his zone. Saxon Auric took a shot at Alton Ashley. Alton Ashley was obviously in concealment with camouflage, so he was defense 18, but Saxon Auric didn't have a problem with that. Plinked him right off the bat with a roll of 11 to hit and just killed him. So that wasn't very nice of him, and poor Alton Ashley only got 1 shot off all game, but that meant that I really needed to kill Saxon Auric in my next turn. So, in my turn, I started by moving up the Centurion and polarity fielding in the zone, just so I didn't forget. Earlier on, the Journeyman had cast Arcane Shield on it, so it was very high armor. My opponent had continued to run Molokarn and his Gladiator up. He had the Objective and the Gladiator in front of Molokarn, but at an angle where Caine couldn't really get a Thunderstrike off the Gladiator to actually hit Molokarn. And obviously, I don't move the Objective if I Thunderstrike it. So, I decided that it was imperative that both the Gladiator and Molokarn get knocked down. Now, the reason for this was that the Gladiator was blocking a lot of line of sight to Molokarn, so if he was knocked down, he was no longer an intervening model. So, what Caine had to do was get Arcane Secrets from Silas, and then charge the unit leader for the Long Gunners. Before he made his initial melee attack, he cast his Thunderstrike on the Gladiator, hit him pretty easily, and knocked him just into the edge of Molokarn's base, knocking them both down, doing a POW 16 hit to Molokarn because of Kiss of Lilith, and then casting Snipe on the Long Gunners before mercilessly killing their unit leader. The Long Gunners then activated and put 2 POW 20 CRAs into Molokarn. Obviously, the unit leader couldn't fire because he had been field promoted and one of them was dead, so it was 2 POW 18s plus 2 for Kiss of Lilith. That pretty handily finished off Molokarn. On the other side of the board, the Gun Mages just continued to fire at the Praetorian Swordsman, killing them few, and the Centurion just sat in the zone. The Journeyman, I think, killed the officer for the Praetorian Swordsman, which took away their mini feat, which was like a pseudo-anatomical precision strike deal, and his granted ability that I forget right now. But other than that, Gorman DeWolf on the other side of the board, almost forgot, walked up to within about 7 inches of Saxon Auric and threw an acid bomb at him, deviated right onto him, and then rolled the, I think, 7 or 8 I needed to kill him and just wiped him out. So that was pretty lucky on my part, but that's what he gets for killing Alton Ashley. Here's the bottom of round 3. I really should have taken more pictures of this round because a lot happened, but this is all I got. So, My opponent, in his turn, realizing Malakar was dead and that his only real chance of assassinating my caster was his Archidon, and trying to play for scenario a little bit, basically ran everything towards my zone. His Agonizer, that he totally had, that I don't think I mentioned earlier, ran into my zone, and because I wasn't contesting with anything, Gormit the Wolf was just a little bit out of it. He was able to control that zone. He moved in with a couple of his Praetorian Swordsmen, got some lucky hits off on some Gun Mages. The Archidon, I think, was enraged by the Beast Handlers and charged one of the Gun Mages, and then killed him with a boosted hit, and then boosted to hit on the Centurion, and got a crit pitch to throw him out of the zone. Other than that, I think that eMakeda fired a boosted Stranglehold at another Gun Mage and was able to kill him. Then she moved up and activated the objective and planted it in front of her. And then the Titan Gladiator didn't have enough movement to get into the zone, but was able to move in front of her. So they were both shielding her from the Gun Mages and the Long Gunners. At the end of my opponent's turn, he was controlling both zones, which meant that he scored 2 points on scenario. So in my turn, I knew that there was 2 ways he could win the game. One was for my opponent to get his objective into one of the zones he controlled, probably the one that he was closest to, my zone. The second way was if I decided not to contest his zones for some reason, and then he would score again on both zones and then win. Or the third one was to wipe the guys out near my objective and control that. So I figured that I could neutralize all these ways of winning pretty easily. The first thing I needed to do was kill his objective, because if his objective was dead, first of all, eMakeda was pretty much out in the open, and secondly, he couldn't bring it into his zone and score. So what I did was I moved up with Iana and Holt, and Iana kissed the objective. Holt fired at the Agonizer that was in his zone and didn't really do anything at all. Then pCaine activated. He moved up to my objective, and then fired at his objective a couple of points more. Oh no, I'm sorry, before that, the Long Gunners activated and put 2 POW 20 CRAs into the objective, and did a ridiculous amount of damage to it. Then pCaine activated, put a couple boosted POW 14s into it because of Kiss, and ended up killing it. So his objective was down. That was good. So pCaine was next to my objective. Before pCaine finished his activation, he cast Teleport, so he was up on the hill there. And then he was still within 4 inches of the objective, so he moved the objective in front of him. So that meant that not only did my opponent have to kill pCaine to capture my objective, which would mean he would win anyway, but pCaine had a big thing in front of him that he was controlling, and that was hiding him as well. Now his Archidon still has Flight as an ability, which meant that he could just charge over the objective and get to pCaine, even though pCaine's line of sight was blocked because the objective was in front of him. So what I needed to do was 2 things. I needed to get the Archidon farther away from pCaine, so I activated the Gun Mages. They put a bunch of shots into the Archidon, pushing it away from pCaine with their Thunderbolts. But I was still pretty sure that the Archidon was still in pCaine's threat range because, still in threat range of pCaine because eMakeda had so many movement buffs between Leash and Road to War, and the Archidon was just fast to begin with. So, with Reinhold and Silas, I moved up to pCaine, and I tried to position them so that if the Archidon charged any one of them, it could not fit its base in a way that could get to pCaine. And because when it's charging, the model it's charging can never leave its front arc, so it couldn't fly right directly over me and turn around. It was going to be almost impossible for his Archidon to get to pCaine. So I was hoping that that is how it would go. Otherwise, the Centurion couldn't receive any focus because of pCaine's control area. Just ended up moving up and polarity fielding again just outside of the zone. And then my Gun Mages moved into the zone. They moved into the zone when they fired, but just to contest it and gum up the works a little bit. And Gormit the Wolf activated and threw an Acid Bomb, but moved into my opponent's zone and threw an Acid Bomb at the Agonizer and did a couple points of damage and corroded it. I think the Agonizer was sitting on 3 hit points, but it was armor 16 and kind of tough to deal with. So my chances of actually killing it and controlling my opponent's zone were pretty slim. So this will be the last photo of the game. This is the end of the game. My opponent's turn 4. He basically tried to get his assassination run with his Archidon off on pCaine. His Archidon was just within charge range of pCaine, but we determined he could not charge pCaine because he could not place his base in a way that would get him in melee range of Kane. Even if he charged Reinhold between Reinhold's base and the objective, he was about a quarter of an inch out from melee range of Kane. So my placement of Kane and his little support solos was absolutely perfect. It was exactly where I needed it to be. If Reinhold was any farther forward, the Archidon could have charged around Reinhold to get to Kane, and if he was any farther back, the Archidon could get within charge range. So he tried it anyway, moved up and cast Leash with eMakeda, cast Road to War, feeded, and then moved the Archidon with his Leash move, and then the Archidon, under Road to War, charged into Kane, and was just out, couldn't make it. And my opponent conceded the game at that point because it was going to be very easy for me to kill him. I could probably just, Thunderstrike Silas into eMakeda, knock her down, kiss her with Ayana, shoot her with Holt, shoot him with the Long Gunners, and that would probably do it. But who knows what the dice would do? I don't like conceding, but it doesn't really matter. My opponent played a very good game. It was a very cordial game. My opponent was very new to Epic eMakeda, so I think he made a mistake leaving Malakarn out in the beginning of the game, but he paid for it in the late game. But his playing for scenario was very good, and if I hadn't been thinking straight, I think that last turn he could easily have won on scenario pretty well. So again, good game to my opponent. Hope you guys enjoyed this battle report. I got a couple more coming at you very soon.